Hello everyone, it's Carolyn. Welcome back to another Foodie Friday at Contemporary Mama. I've been so excited to create this video for you guys and show you how I make some authentic Italian meatballs and a Sunday sauce to go along with it. I know that this is a sacred tradition for many Italians, so before you guys jump on me telling me that I'm doing it wrong, just know that every recipe I have ever seen does this a little bit differently. So this is just my take on how I do it. I'm excited to share it with you, but just know that you can always customize it and adjust things to your family's preference. So let's get started. I'm getting started by grabbing this gigantic onion. Both the meatballs and my Sunday sauce call for a medium diced onion. So I'm going to be using this gigantic one and just chopping that all up and using it in both recipes. So I'm dicing it pretty small. I don't like large chunks of onion in either my meatballs or my sauce. So I'm really finely dicing this up here, as you can see. And then once you have your onion all diced up to your liking, we are going to saute that until the onions are softened. For me, this usually takes about 8 to 10 minutes. So as you can see, I'm just heating up some olive oil in a saute pan, and then I'm going to go ahead, add in my onions and stir those until they're softened. So while those onions are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and mince up my garlic. I am a bit of a garlic snob. I really prefer using fresh garlic. So I'm mincing up about 6 cloves of garlic. And again, I'm going to be splitting this between the meatballs and the sauce. So you can use as much or as little as you want, depending on your family's preferences. So I'm just going to let that cook for about 1 to 1.5 minutes. You don't want the garlic too browned. And then once that is done cooking, I'm going to add half of this mixture in for where I am cooking my Sunday sauce in my crock pot. And then I'm going to let the other half over to cool. So I'm just going to start by opening up my cans of tomatoes. I'm using 2 28-ounce cans of crushed tomatoes. I know some people like to use whole tomatoes, but then you just have to crush them yourself. So I'm using the crushed tomatoes, and I'm adding just enough water to get out all of the tomatoes from the can. And then to that mixture, I'm going to be adding a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. This just gives so much amazing condensed tomato flavor to your sauce. Now, you definitely can't forget some Italian seasonings. I am adding about a tablespoon of these dried Italian seasoning blend, as well as approximately 3/4 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. You really don't need to measure. Adding in some salt and pepper, of course, about 2 teaspoons, I'd say, of salt, 1 teaspoon of fresh ground pepper, and then you definitely want to add in some sugar. This is going to cut the acidity of the sauce. So about a tablespoon of just regular white sugar. Some dry red wine gives it the most incredible flavor. Don't worry, it is going to cook down, so you can still give it to your kids, but I'm adding a 1/2 cup of that, and then make sure you save the bottle to drink later on with your meal. Now, balsamic vinegar is something I've always added to my sauce. It gives it not only the most amazing flavor, but such an intense, rich color to your sauce. So I'm adding in a splash of that, as well as a rind of a Parmesan cheese wedge. If you have one of these laying around, you're probably just going to throw it away. So you might as well throw it into your sauce, and it's going to add a ton of flavor. Now that you have it all mixed up, you are going to cook this low and slow. So either on your stovetop or in the crock pot like me, set it on low and let it simmer away for the entire afternoon. Let's make some meatballs. I am grabbing 1/3 cup of breadcrumbs and pouring that into a bowl and covering it with 1/2 cup of milk. Now I'm going to give this just a little stir and then let this sit for about 20 minutes. So while this breadcrumb mixture is sitting and kind of thickening up, I'm going to go ahead and prep the rest of the ingredients for the meatballs. So here I have about a handful of parsley, and I am just going to be mincing that up pretty finely. And then in another bowl, I am going to crack in 2 eggs and just give those a light scramble. For the meat, I usually do a combination of beef and pork. I think that is super flavorful, but it's a quarantine and all I could get my hands on was this ground sirloin. So you're going to want to grab about 2 pounds. So by now 20 minutes is up and my breadcrumb mixture is nice and thick. So I'm going to add in that cooled onion and garlic mixture from earlier and then add in the rest of the ingredients. So I poured in those eggs, the parsley. I'm going to add in a few tablespoons of shredded Parmesan cheese as well, and then all my spices. So that's about 2 teaspoons of salt, about a teaspoon of fresh ground pepper. I never measure, I just use my pepper mill and stop when it feels right. About a half a teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes, and then also some dried Italian herbs, about a tablespoon. Then I'm just going to add in my meat and kind of mix it up with my hands, nice and old school. You do sort of want to be careful when you're mixing up meatballs. You don't want to over mix it. So just kind of mix this together until it is just combined. And then when it looks like all of the ingredients are kind of combined together, we are actually going to be placing this in the refrigerator covered for about an hour. It's going to make it a lot easier to roll out. I know traditionally the meatballs are pan fried and then continue cooking in the sauce, but I just find it so much easier and less messy to bake them on a baking sheet. So I throw them in an oven at 425 degrees. If I want them cooked all the way through, like I'm using them for something else, I'll cook them for 15 to 20 minutes, but I cook them for about half the time if I'm going to continue cooking them in the sauce, only until they're just about browned. So that leaves me just enough time to scroll through TikTok, and then they are ready to go in my yummy, delicious sauce, and they are going to continue cooking there and flavor the sauce immensely. After 4 or even 5 hours of cooking, it is time to finish things off. So I'm just cooking some pasta in a big pot of salted water, and then I like to add my fresh herbs at the end so that their flavors don't get dulled cooking for a long period of time. I really like to taste the fresh herbs, so some fresh parsley and fresh basil really go a long way to adding a little pop into your sauce. By now, your house is going to be smelling amazing. Having this cook all day long, you can seriously smell it from anywhere in your house. You are going to be so hungry. So make sure that you pour yourself a nice big glass of red wine. You just can't eat a hearty pasta sauce without it. It's just a crime. And then you're going to give yourself a nice big bowl of pasta topped with as many meatballs as your heart desires. I hope that everyone enjoyed this video and that you had fun seeing how I made this delicious, hearty meal of authentic Italian meatballs and Sunday sauce, and that you'll be giving it a try for dinner sometime soon. I'll see you guys on Tuesday with a brand new video. Bye!